Today we're doing the rear brake pads. These are 19 millimeter lug nuts. Go ahead, loosen all these up, and then we'll raise up the vehicle. You want to loosen these up before you raise up the vehicle, or your wheel will just spin on you. Right down here, bringing in my floor jack. Raise this up off the ground. And this is what it sounds like. So while this customer was driving, this is what he could hear. So that's the sound of the little metal sensor touching the rotor. I'm just doing brake pads on this vehicle. The owner did not want to do rotors. Best practice would be go ahead and do rotors and brake pads at the same time. Or you could actually turn these. You could actually take them to O'Reilly Auto Parts and have them turned. When I say turn, that basically means they put them on a machine that removes the imperfections. Like on a piece of metal, it'll get it wavy. And they had put it on a machine, it actually a brake lathe, and actually makes it flat again. Cuts a new surface onto the metal. Right here, you have two bolts that you need to remove to get access to the brake pads, which are right back in here. The funny thing is about these, so you can see there's a 9/16 and there's a 14 millimeter. What you'll see in a second is that they both don't fit 100%. So there's some play right there on that one. There's some little bit more play on that one. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to use the 14 millimeter. Remember, these are righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So if you think about it, counter righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So we're going to go that way. So I'm going to put this on here and press down. Now the key thing to remember is that you need to grease these pins. These are pins. The brake caliper right here slides on the pins, and you need to grease those. And sometimes these are sometimes you need a little help getting those loose. So I have a hammer right here. Go ahead, hit it right here. I'm gonna hit the wrench with this part of the hammer, not the head of the hammer, with this little part right here. Go ahead, get that loose. Okay, so what I did right here is I removed the lower bolt, the lower pin. Go ahead and moved it up, and now I'm able to slide this whole assembly out. There's your other pin. This is the pin you're going to grease right here. Okay? Right inside here, there's one brake pad. Here's the other one. So here's the sensor I was telling you about. Right here, this piece of metal. So that piece of metal right there, the brake pad material, gets lower than what this metal is. So that's what you're hearing. That's just a good indicator that your brake pad is about to go out. Alright, next thing you want to do, right here, these slides, hopefully you guys can see this. There's a slide here, there's one on top as well. Right here, this slide right here, which the brake pad slides on, this metal part actually gets stuck in there and slides back and forth. You're going to want to clean this up with some brake clean and a steel wool brush, toothbrush if you have it. And then we're going to apply some Siliglide. I got this from Napa. It's a synthetic, non-melting, non-freezing, non-gumming. Just helps the pad slide back and forth so you get even wear on both sides. Because if this binds up at all, sometimes you'll see a brake pad that has a lot of brake pad material left, and another one, the other side, doesn't have any at all. And that's mostly caused by the slides not getting greased right. Get some brake cleaner. Go ahead, hit it down there. Hit it up here as well. Try to clean this up as well as possible. This slide on top and bottom. If you can, either replace the brake rotors or have them turned to put a new surface onto them. Here on the left is an old unsurfaced rotor. Here on the right is the same exact rotor but resurfaced. So when they go in there, they cut down any imperfections or waves in the metal. So if you think about it, after many heat cycles with the brake pad wearing down on the rotor, because they're stopping a 3,000 pound vehicle, you get waves in the metal. And if you've ever put your foot on the brake, if you've ever felt your brake pedal pulsate when you're braking, that's the wave you're feeling inside the rotor. To get rid of that wave, they go in there, they cut a new surface onto a rotor. These rotors heat up multiple times, thousands of multiple times during the life of a rotor, if you want to call it that. So this rotor has already seen hot and cold cycles. It's been seasoned. So I think you're better off getting a rotor turned than buying new rotors, because a seasoned rotor has already seen the heat cycles and probably isn't gonna fluctuate that much as opposed to a brand new one. Because I've seen brand new rotors after 300 miles already have a pulsating in the brake pedal. You can have rotors turned at most major automotive stores. Just call before you bring it there. See how long it'll take, because your vehicle will be inoperable as long as they're turning the rotors. As far as saving money, save more money having your rotors turned than buying new ones. All right, well, there's my in-depth discussion, my theological discussion on brake rotors. Get some of the Napa Siliglide here. Do not get this on the brake pad, the surface that actually connects to the rotor. Just a little bit will do ya. A little dab will do ya. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and put it on the slide pins as well, here and here. I'm going to show you how to push the piston back into the caliper, but first thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and remove this cap on the brake fluid reservoir. Don't worry, I know I've gotten some comments in the past. Guys are saying, oh, dirt and debris are going to fall in this. You don't have this open long enough for really any dirt or water or debris to get into this, so don't even worry about it. The reason you want to do this is because when you push that piston back, that hydraulic fluid, the brake fluid has to go somewhere. So it's going to push itself back into this reservoir. And if you don't have the cap off, see that seal right in there? You can blow that seal out sometimes. So best practice, remove the cap, then go ahead and push the piston back. When you're done, make sure you put this cap back in place. Otherwise, all the brake fluid inside the reservoir will come and shoot up and get onto your hood. We're going to pull this other brake pad off. Then once we do that, it'll give us access to push the piston back into place. So go ahead and grab this. You might need to get some, what do you call it? A screwdriver to get in there and pop that open. Okay, just working this loose. Bend those up a little bit, the back tabs. All right, got that out. Had to tap that out of place. One end of your C-clamp's going to go here. The other one's going to go on the back of the brake pad. Go ahead and bring this into place. Then once you hit contact with the old brake pad, you're just going to slowly move the piston back into place. Now just slowly moving the piston back into the caliper. And you want to do this because if you don't, with the piston all the way out, there's not enough room with all the meat on the new brake pad to get the caliper to sit on the rotor. Like I said earlier, you want to use the brake pad or some kind of buffer between the C-clamp and the piston because you don't want to mar the surface at all. Okay, I'm going to go until it bottoms out. It's bottomed out. So I got the new ones from O'Reilly Auto Parts. Bring this in. It only goes one way. The curved part usually will face down to the curved part of the caliper. Go ahead and get those clips into place. You might have to open them up with your hands a little bit. At the same time, push down. Just moving them back and forth a little bit to get them to seat correctly. There's a little post on the inside that it needs to sit into. Okay, so it actually went into place. I had to stick a screwdriver down in here, right in here, push it out a little bit, and it popped into place. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So right here on the back side, see these pins? There's a spot on the inside of the caliper that these two pins have to sit into. So those have to sit correctly for the brake pad to sit right. So you want that totally flush against the brake pad and the caliper. Now we're bringing the other one. The brake material needs to be facing the rotor. So flip that around. All right. Okay, now we're ready to bring in the caliper. Everything's in place. Make sure these slide pins are greased good. Go ahead, put a little bit more there. Bring in your caliper, start on the top. Make sure this lower one, the bushing, the little rubber grommet is there. Put a little bit more grease onto this one. Roll that around a little bit. And slide that back through. Tighten that down. Leave that a little bit loose. Make sure you get this one started on top. All right, well, I'm going to finish this up. I won't show you the other side. One thing you need to note is you need to put the reservoir cap back onto the reservoir. You want to pump the brake 5 to 10 times before you drive the vehicle after doing this job. so that it gives enough time for the piston to come out, make contact with the brakes. If you don't, then you're going to go driving and you're going to put on the brake and it's going to go to the floor and you're going to get all scared and afraid. So make sure you pump the brake pedal 5 to 10 times after you put the reservoir fluid cap back on, to make sure that you have contact on the piston and the new brake pads. Alright, I'm just snugging those up by hand. Those are tight. This one's tight, that one's tight. Another thing to note is you do not need to open up the bleeder valve for the brake fluid. There's no reason to do that ever, unless you need to chase out the brake or change out the caliper. There's no reason to open up the hydraulic system, the brake fluid system. You're just asking for problems if you do that. You're just asking for air to enter the system, and then you're in a world of hurt. If you found any of my videos helpful, please consider subscribing to Bundys Garage on YouTube. Questions, comments, concerns, you can always reach out to me at bundysgarage@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter. And like always, I'll keep them rolling for you.